What's going on, gamers? We got some up-to-date intel on the PS6 today that came from Kepler. And the reason why I think this is going to be done is because it's Sony being intelligent again. And you'll see what I mean as we read into this article. So according to the new technical details about the PlayStation 6 hardware, is it right here, have surfaced online. According to a leak from Insider Kepler L2, the next-gen console will not utilize a full RDNA 5 architecture, but the Xbox Magnus will. Well, that's a PC, right? And watch how much more expensive it is. Just like the Series X did full RDNA 2, which was actually nice because they were evenly priced at the beginning of the generation, but that stuff doesn't matter, and it didn't help them win because Sony still had market rights, and they're also using Linux. So here's my thing. This is actually where I'm going to tell you that Sony once again realizes they're going to take that hybrid shortcut, just like they did with checkerboarding in the PS4 era, and in the PS5 they did the same thing with like 1.8 RDNA 2. They're going to do the same thing here, probably like 4.8 RDNA 4 or something like that, because they're mastering that right now with the PS5 Pro backwards feet. Sony finds ways to do this all the time, but this is going to make the price of the PS6 be able to be cheaper, so they don't have to do full RDNA 5 and charge a lot more money, or even if it is 100, 150, maybe 200, you never know. Why would they do that when they can sell a lot more consoles? And then when you get to that point, as I was telling people before, it doesn't matter because everything is going to look insanely good. You're going to get specs that nobody in the world really has in the PC world by average. It's not going to be like 50, 60, 70% of PC gamers have these PS6 specs. Like, no, Valve showed you what people kind of have. Not that that's 100% accurate, like up to date right now, because obviously people probably have upgraded for sure to like a 4060 or something like that, or 5060, depending. But that's all limited because NVIDIA, right? You kind of have to go to the four range. You guys get what I'm saying? But yeah, it gives you the idea that Sony is once again trying to make sure they get this price into an affordable range. And they'll probably strip down some parts too to make sure that happens as well. They're a good hardware manufacturing company. But PlayStation, it's about moving as much hardware as possible, not going for the most power, but having that hybrid balance and saying this is still really good enough. Even if you say the Magnus is 30% more powerful, what does that really matter when you really think about the way that the PlayStation brand and identity power is still in full force, selling very well? And people want to wait anyways, and they're comfortable even with their PS5s. That jump from PS5 to PS6 is going to be massive. The jump from the PS5 Pro to PS6 is going to be nice too. But if people are content with that still, then this is still going to be plenty enough, and they still want that affordability. That's why I wanted to get into this right now and say this is where Sony is smart again, because they're trying to find that hybrid balance point. And that's why I always thought about them when I'm like, yeah, they're kind of a hybrid multi-conglomerate company when it comes to things. So it says Sony is expected to implement a hybrid graphics solution combining different architectural features. I'm sure Mark Cerny's going to come up with a nice plan, as he always does. This follows the same pattern as the current PlayStation 5. You see what I mean? They did the same thing. But PlayStation 5 was outperforming Series X a lot. Though they had the optimization and the market lead, so developers knew they were going to make more money on there, because it's like, wait, do I want to fully focus on this RDNA 2 and have to do that when all my market rights, you know what I mean? And most of my profit is coming from PlayStation, coming from the PS4 to PS4 Pro, switch it to the PS4 Pro to this? Or do I want to start from the ground up, spend more resources, and focus on Xbox, but I'm not getting no sales? Right? That's why they went with the PS5 architecture, and it was running fine. And as you see, they made the right choice, and everything's going fine, and things look good, and they run good. Stuff on the Series X that did look a little bit better, it's like, yeah, but Sony, like I said, they use Linux. And I think that's a thing that people forgot about. It's like, no, but remember, bro, this is Linux also versus Windows operating system. We've seen test result years later where Microsoft tried to improve that before the ROG Ally version was coming out with, you know, their little feats on there. And it's like, yeah, I think this is something that was always overlooked. And Linux is about to get a new OS update here in the next month or two, so I expect that to be even more smooth. So with these shortcuts, you're not going to really worry about missing out on anything. You're still going to get your huge jump from last gen and be able to have one of the best specs in the world when that comes out. So yeah, the pattern they're following for the PS5 is actually going to work, which was a mix of RDNA 1 and new features like ray tracing rather than a standard RDNA 2 chip. And I've seen some Xbox fanboy tried to say, oh, this and this and that. It's like, bro, but does it really matter? You're talking about PlayStation using RDNA 1.8, but how did it work out? What was the results? How did it work out for the other side? Because I bought both. It's like, so you're just looking like a fool. It's like you got these fools trying to attack Nintendo's GPU or the graphics, and it's like, what does it matter though? Once again, look at the results. If it works. When did anybody that ever focused on power win? Was the Series X more powerful than the PS5? Was the Vita more powerful than the 3DS? Was the PSP more powerful than the DS? The 360 was outselling the PS3 because Sony focused on power with the CPU and all that too. Guess what? They had to drop the price down, fix all that stuff. What happened? The Wii U was weaker than both, but it won. The Switch was weaker than all the other ones, but it won. You see what I mean? Like, if you're still focusing on power to me, then you don't understand the gaming industry. You don't understand what really matters more than anything. Having a good time, having fun, and having good gameplay and replay value. It's the most important thing. Having a good story, good writing, all that. If you have all that, people want to play really good video games. You got people going back playing older games on PC, a whole PC base playing all these old games, still playing Counter-Strike, all these other games because they still enjoy it. You're sitting over there still talking about graphics. League of Legends been dominating. Roblox been dominating. Mario keeps dominating. Pokemon keeps breaking records. It's like you're not getting it. So Sony doing this is actually smart because they're not going for full power. They're going for that hybrid future, and they're going to save themselves money. They're going to be able to get you that PS6 cheaper and launch it in the right time, probably late 2028, and everything's going to be fine. And watch how good it still looks to these ottle comparisons. You're going to have to start getting Digital Foundry videos to barely notice a difference at that point because the diminished returns are going to be so high, it's going to be meta peak high. So who cares? The company prefers to pull specific features required for their goals instead of adapting every standard function, which is correct because you have somebody that's talented enough like Mark Cerny and other people in there who are off the record that don't want to be known and can adapt and say, look, this is still like this. Who else is having these specs on PC anyways? Who cares? Make sure you have really good video games. That's what matters. This strategy has already proven successful for the current generation of hardware. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. You see what I mean? What does it matter? Who cares? So the leak focuses specifically on the architectural setup of the GPU rather than direct power comparisons. Yeah, they're modifying it to be just as good. And for Sony, and at that point, like I said, once you have that much technology, who cares? Sony continues to design custom silicon to meet the specific demands of developers and players. The PlayStation 6 is set to be another unique hardware combination in the company's long-standing tradition. Yeah, this is very true. This just went up, by the way. There's a lot of articles. Tom had his article up as well, but I just ran into this. And I tell you what, so Sony's doing this, and then we saw what they might be doing with the SSD space, right? How they're going to be reducing down the storage size to make it seem like all of the spaces that is needed and it's taken up goes up to the cloud, and that you only stream probably the icon and whatever you need to just get right on there, and the cloud takes care of everything else. If you, that's probably going to be a priced option though. But even then, something like that is still very nice. This is the type of stuff we're looking forward to. When it's like, okay, you're giving me the PS6. If people still want to stay on the PS5 Pro or the PS5, what is it that you're selling me that's more than power? And that is a huge thing that's coming next gen that needs to happen big time. So yeah, guys, like what I did is I just went over and I typed in PS6 RDNA 5 because like I said, there's articles coming up. As I went down, I ran into, like I said, Tom's forum, and you got MP first right here at the PS6 reportedly, not future full RDNA 5 architecture, and here's what it means for gamers. So this stuff is popping up more. It's a new thing that just came out. It's just like every other PlayStation. But does it really matter? No, look at the results. Everything ended up turning out very well. So I want you guys to let me know what you think about this. Once again, Sony is doing the right thing to think about hardware price point. Not, oh, I want this to be full RDNA 5 so I can charge you $100 some more. No, the market is already ridiculous. So whatever you can do to cut that cost down and to make sure that things are in balance, because balance is the key to victory, not power, then you do that. And this is what I like about Sony. This is what I like about Nintendo. They never chase power too. They do what matters the most, and that's giving you fun video games. And we're talking about first party. Third party, this is the biggest third party support they're ever going to get. They're finally now more open to that than ever. So they're making that 10, 15, 20 yard jump, over time into the third party realm. And it's nice for people that are going to have that option. because you're always going to have communities that focus on different things to gaming. What do I mean by that? Well, in a Nintendo world, there may be people who only play handheld. Just like people who are on mobile. You see what I mean? So it's like you can't try to convince them with certain other things. That's not the way they work. That's just a diversity in life. Like there's people in the PC world that are only ever going to be on Steam. And they'll never play anything else. People in the PlayStation world, you PlayStation only guy, you know what I mean? It's like, that's what you want to do. So you have to realize that if you are going to reach different crowds, you have to understand multiple mindsets in the gaming industry. And in the Nintendo world, all that stuff that people sometimes I think try to criticize when they're talking from a PlayStation head only perspective, it's like you're locked in that point of view only. And you think that's the only thing that exists. That's the problem. It's not. You're not understanding their mindset. They don't care about that. So there's people that are going to reply to that differently, and they're reaching that audience, and that's a whole audience. It's bigger than sometimes console industries. As we saw those handheld numbers back in the days, and it's like, see, look at the mobile numbers. You can't think in a one-track mind. You got to be able to expand the horizon of your mindset. So let me know what you guys think. I think Sony is making the right moves, and I know the results are going to be great because at that point, who cares? Everything's going to look insanely good and running over 60 frames. You're going to have 70, 80, 90, 100 frames. You guys know how it is. It's already like that with the Pro. Peace out. Have a great day.